and then Trisha, just introducing ourselves, but I can start that conversation. Okay.
Okay.
Nice. Hi guys. Morning. Hi, guys. Awesome to see you all. It's really, really nice. Obviously, I haven't seen many of you for a really long time in person. Dee, probably, to be honest, I've seen you most recently when you helped me out with Kai, and you've just come back from immigration. How crazy was that? So what we'll do, guys, is just go around, I was going to say the room, but we're not in a room. We'll go around the Zoom and just have a quick introduction of each of us, just so people have an idea of who's talking and that kind of thing. So going to my right, I suppose, Heidi.
Hello, good morning. Okay, so I'm Dee, and what do I do? So right now I've just gone back to work. So I had a baby, my second daughter, on the 27th of January this year. And my older one is about to turn 4 in a couple of weeks. And I work full time. So I work as a private client manager for Bupa Global. And yeah, this is my 3rd week back at work. And it's been interesting. I was just sharing earlier that these set of wardrobes, like this wardrobe is full of my computer stuff for work, and don't worry about diapers, like they can just be found wherever else. And yeah, I've just made a workstation, which is why I'm like sitting in my bedroom, because everybody else outside knows that like if this bedroom door is closed starting at 9 a.m., you just don't come in. So this has become my safe space. Yeah. What else? So yeah, I started a float on with my husband about 5 years ago as well, but he's, fully running that now, and I just kind of support him from the back end, and it's been good actually during this time. Like, people need it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah. I'm gonna pass it on. Let's see. I'm gonna go down. So I think it looks different for everybody, but I'm gonna go down to Emily. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. So I'm Emily. I always think it's interesting, like, what order do you present yourself in? Like, what am I first? So I'm a mum to Fletcher. He's just turned 2. And I'm currently about 6 months pregnant with our second baby, a little girl. She's due at the end of August. I work full-time as a corporate lawyer. I work for a US bank. I specialize in employment law in the Asia Pacific region, which means that I spend my days doing Asia and I spend my evenings speaking with New York. So it's a long stretch. And I guess how I'm kind of connected to the ladies in this group roughly is kind of through the fitness and training world and various degrees of connections. And yeah, I've been kind of existing in this weird work from home state pretty much for all of this year, because I think when the coronavirus stuff all took off, I was back in New Zealand on holiday over Chinese New Year, which is when it all took off here in Hong Kong. So I stayed longer in New Zealand and worked remotely because I was in early stages of pregnancy at that stage and didn't really want to rush back to Hong Kong. And then I kind of ironically came back to Hong Kong at the time that the first corona cases hit New Zealand, so I actually timed it quite well. So I've been kind of drifting around in this work from home state for most of the year, which has just been, every day I get up and I say to my husband, I was like, weird, life is weird right now, but it's good, we're managing. So yeah. I will pass it down to Ziggy.
Hi, I'm Ziggy, aka Zigbit Mama. Thank you for having me. It's so nice to see all of you virtually. So I am mother to George, who is 3, and I've just had baby Callum the 27th of, no, that's not his birthday. He's a Boxing Day baby. It's the 26th of December. Yeah, so I should remember that. Before I had my second, I was predominantly a pre and postnatal, trainer. And then sort of, I was on maternity leave. We had Chinese New Year, and that's kind of when schools shut, everything shut really, and people started to confine themselves. So I've been in extended confinement, I like to think of, yeah. And who I am in this world, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. Is that good? Can you cut that?
You can keep that in, Ziggy.
Trish.
Hi guys. Get out. Sorry. Hi guys. I can't stop getting interrupted this morning. My name's App. You can find me TRICIAYP on Instagram. I'm a mom and a stepmom. And I'm a mom to a toddler and a mom to an 11 and 12-year-old. They're currently with us. We don't at the end of February. So we were actually in Venice, aka ground zero for Italy. And I thought we'd stay a little bit longer there, but we did. We ended up coming, going down to France, picking up the kids, and then big sort of batches. So first and foremost, I'm that. Secondly, opportunity came up in early January to take over a space. So
Hold on.
I started. Oh,
Trish,
sorry.
we can't really hear you.
Oh,
can you go somewhere with better connection?
It just keeps jumping in and out, Trish, and freezing.
Let's see. Is that a bit better, guys?
Yeah, it seems so. That was way clearer.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay. All right. So the opportunity in January to take over a space. I've had a history being in the fitness industry. Started off with a concept called Bikini. Went on to something called Warrior Academy, and most recently I was director of fitness over at Goji Studios. So I, along the way, I've had this huge journey of, you know, I've always been an athlete. I suppose I'm most well known for being an MMA here in Hong Kong. Once I retired, I got into functional medicine. So I recently, in the last 2 years, qualified as a functional medicine. I've been doing that for quite a long time, even before that. And so I signed the lease of a space in January, and the virus hit. Woo! So you can add to my job's roles and responsibilities the fact that I'm literally building this gym from scratch myself. I've learned how to YouTube how to drill a hole in a wall, to how to cut a mat, to how to paint ceilings. So that's what I've been doing. I've been really lucky to have friends and you know, some of the two coaches helping out with moving equipment. We somehow got this seated row lat pull down up 8 floors through a narrow corridor without, basically, I was there with a sledgehammer ready to just knock down half the cupboards and half the stuff. So you can add gym owner to the list. So I'm hoping that everything will be ready just before summer, but the space is actually ready to go. It's coming in hopefully when we reopen for Hong Kong on Friday. But in terms of actually launching anything, it'll probably be before summer, because I still need to paint and fix the air cons and everything else. So there you go.
That's awesome.
That's me right now. Tired mom. Most of all.
That's awesome, Trish. I didn't realize that. That's cool. So guys, in terms of me, my name is Babs, and I am a trainer at Coastal Fitness. I work in personal training, small group, and in our larger group classes, which kind of are more kind of strength and conditioning focused. I'm a mum of one little boy. He's going to be 4 in June. So Maya and Ty are pretty close in age. I think we were all kind of pregnant at the same time. And yeah, so when the whole coronavirus kind of hit, I was in Australia for my brother's wedding, but we were kind of in the process of relocating to Bangkok. So my husband's been there, starting his new job since the middle of February. And we were supposed to join him kind of, it was going to be middle of April, then it was going to be beginning of April, then now obviously we're still in Hong Kong because they've closed their borders. So at the moment it looks like they're going to reopen beginning of June. And then, so yeah, we're just kind of waiting, a bit like everyone, kind of all the information out there, it just, you know, it's just so unknown. No one really knows what's going to happen. So we're just kind of, yeah, just going about, I guess, as much routine as we can. Because we knew we were leaving, we gave up Kai's school for K1 and stuff anyway. So kind of his homeschooling has definitely been non-existent, but I've been leaning on my helper a lot. She's been fantastic, just getting him out of the house and seeing friends and things, because we're also staying with my sister and her boyfriend. So just conscious of them obviously working from home and trying to get out of their hair as well. So yeah, but I think that everybody, in terms of just getting to know everybody, everyone's a little bit of a background story. So in terms of our chat today, we've already talked about how hopefully we're going to be able to put a lot of content out there that hopefully is going to be relevant in some degree to everyone who's listening. I think we've got a lot of questions to do with kind of relationships during this time. I know obviously a lot of people are spending a lot more time at home. So relationships with their significant others, whether it's other people in the house, helpers, kids, multiple kids, etc. So I'd like to start by swatting away a fly, but just kind of addressing kind of things you found in terms of, I guess, challenges in spending that much amount of time with people that maybe you don't always have the opportunity to do, but also I suppose on the other side, kind of real positives that have come out of maybe having more Zoom calls with friends overseas who maybe we haven't kind of kept in contact with. I think this time has been fantastic. We're just, you know, reaching out to everyone, or a lot more, because we're trying to make a connection versus, you know, just a little WhatsApp message now and again. So, I mean, I know, sorry to hog this, but I'm not good on FaceTime and things like that. So my relationship with Mike, who's obviously not in the country, has definitely been a really big challenge for us, trying to forge time and book it in to connect. And I mean, you guys all know, being mums, as soon as you turn the camera on with your child in the room, he kind of becomes the main focus. You know, you're literally like this, and then there's, you know, the other person trying to tell you a story about how their day's going, and you're like, yeah, okay, don't touch that. So yeah, it's definitely become a bit of a distraction. But I would love to kind of hear you guys solutions, what you guys have found in that realm as well. So I mean, in terms of having, yeah, Dee.
Hey, so all right, let's start with the challenges. So for me, so I'm very fortunate in that my company does 14 weeks of maternity leave, whereas I know most companies in Hong Kong do, I think it's 10 weeks.
10, yeah.
Yeah. And, when I had my first pregnancy, we were working on Float On. I was running all this up yoga stuff. I was working for myself. So I had no concept or worry of like going back to work. And the challenge for me this time, because I didn't really know, like we didn't know when, like I wasn't sure if when I started back at work, I was going to have to be there like every day. And that's what I was like mentally trying to prepare myself for. And I'm really grateful that we are still, just coming in from a need to basis. And that I've, my line manager was like, no, you work from home if you need to, like, you can get the job done, like do it from home. And I was like, at first I was like, yes. But that, like, I thought that would give me like more time for myself, but actually it's been harder. Like it's been hard to juggle a newborn schedule, which is none, a husband, right, who works. Like Kieran's pretty much gone from anywhere from 8:30 to 9 until like 7. So that's the whole day. And then Maya, who's 4 and obviously has loads of energy, and then our helper. And for me, being at home with 2 kids and having to juggle work, like it definitely puts a strain on me as a mom first. Like I've noticed there were moments when I first started having to work again 3 weeks ago, where I would just lose it. Like I would just lose it on Maya if like she just came in the room and like, I mean, she's not even 4 yet, right? And I'm like, get out, and then just closing the door and then going like, shit, like how is that going to scar her forever, right? I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's as a journey on parenthood is like, how much less can I screw up my kid? Or like try not to make the same mistakes, because you remember things that happen to you and you're like, oh, I hope that I don't do that to my kid, or they don't remember that. And one of the things a friend said to me when I first became a parent, she was like, as you watch your child grow, you're going to relive your childhood. So not only am I doing that now with Maya, but I'm redoing that again with a newborn and thinking about Maya with the newborn. So there's like all these layers. And then there's like all the guilt of, am I spending enough time on my work? Am I spending enough time with Maya? Am I spending enough time with the baby? Like have I even created date nights with Kieran, and there are definitely moments where I've just like sat down and cried. And yeah, like I was sharing before we started recording, like last night, just putting like, so we're trying to get her out of diapers at night. So she still wears a diaper at night because we haven't done any training or, so before we go to bed, we usually take her to the bathroom and then put her back into bed. And, I just held her in the rocking chair and I was like bawling because I couldn't believe just like suddenly she's so big. And then I came to bed and I just sat in the bed crying, and Kieran was like, are you okay? Like, I am. And he was like, he was like, is it happy tears? Are you happy crying? And I was like, yes. So those have been the challenges. I think the biggest one, just like trying to juggle everything and being great at everything. Like, I'm going to be honest, like I want to be great at everything. I think all of us do, as moms and as whatever, like all the hats that we wear, right? We want to be the best at it. We want to know that we're giving. And probably where we're not good is, making time for ourselves. So I'm starting to come out of that woodwork, out of that haze. And I think, so the positives are that every Monday it's Mama Maya Monday. So she learns the letter M. And then we can move on to A and O. And so I make it a point, because I am working from home, that every lunch hour I'm gone. Like, I get out of the house, even if it's just to walk, even if I'm not eating, like, I need to get out. So every Monday I take her out. I make sure there's like milk there for the baby. I leave it with the helper, and then we go out and I let her pick. Like, we can either have a quick lunch and do an activity, or, you know, we can go to any one of the restaurants, obviously near my home, so that we can, you know, come back in time. And then the other days during the week, like, I've just found a couple of other moms and kids in the area that are like about the same age. Ziggy, Maya's come over and hung out with you guys a few times. She loves your trampoline. And yeah, like, at least I can have, you know, she can be out of the house, and like sometimes our helper will take the baby with her, or sometimes she'll just leave the baby, and that kind of like quiets down the place, and I can find some alone time or some quiet to like focus on work. Yeah. I find myself like reading an email like over and over to make sure I didn't miss anything before I hit send, if there's people around. So those are kind of the pros and cons that I've been dealing with around relationships, people in the home, finding who the hell I am again. Yeah, and I'll pass it on to whoever wants to, and you guys can unmute and mute yourselves. So if you are on a phone, just yeah, Emily, press the phone and then bottom left.
Techno idiot, but okay, so I'm unmuted. I guess my take on the challenges of it are that, I mean, before this whole coronavirus situation took off, by virtue of the by nature of the job that I work, I was carrying a lot of mum guilt about being out so long. I work really long hours. So I'd have a little bit of time with Fletch in the morning, and then I'd mostly be gone for the day working. And more often than not, when I got home at night, Fletch was already in bed. So I'd missed bath time, I'd missed all that. So after going back to work, after having Fletch, there was a lot of like guilt associated with that. Just not being home because the hours work. And also I always would take some time between my fits, and there's guilt associated with that because that's more time away from your child. So now, ironically, we're in a situation where I work at home, but everything not time with my child and my husband, and it's not great. I mean, it's been, I did much time with Fletch, which is awesome. I think the nicest part is that I've been able to take an hour towards the end of the day to take him down for like a run around down at Happy Valley Park. And if you know any of you guys who know Fletcher, his favourite thing, anybody. Fletcher's got his gang of little friends that he had. How wonderful I manage, so that's not really that helpful for her. And then Chris, he runs his own business. My husband runs his own business, so we don't need to be in each other's hair during the day. We've both got jobs we're trying to do. So if anything, it's given me some, the whole working mum thing was actually working really well for us, even though it did mean I was away from home a lot. The time that I did have with my family was really good, quality time. Whereas at the moment we're getting a lot of quantity time, and it's not a bad thing, but my family don't need me around this much. Like, I'm a pain in the ass a lot of the time. So, and it also makes me a little bit nervous because I've got, obviously, this baby's due at the end of August. My company gives 16 weeks paid leave, which is wonderful, and I'm probably taking about 5 months leave all up. And I struggled a bit with the maternity leave period and being at home with a newborn. I'm just not very good at being at home all the time, and having this coronavirus time of being at home a lot made me a bit nervous, being like, wow, I'm going back into that postpartum period where you are at home feeding and looking after a newborn. And I personally find that really challenging. I find the social isolation quite challenging. So it's been good in terms of, I was like, well, I need to plan for this, and the strategies that I've kind of worked out for dealing with this home environment, I think are hopefully going to flow over to that period of time when I take some maternity leave. So that's been helpful. I've certainly kind of learned some lessons, more so on how to manage myself so that I'm a better mum and wife, really. And I just don't annoy my family as much as I potentially can.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. Like I've with not being in the gym as much, like working the longer hours, you know, always coaching for people before their work, after work, people are a lot more flexible. So it's been definitely nice, like the same, like spending a lot more time with Kai. But exactly that, he's got like play dates and things like that. And so I get to see him, I'll show up to the, you know, Tamar or the beach or something and hang out. But I'm literally there just like, well, they're just off playing because they don't want to spend time with me. They're just playing with their friends. And I'm like, okay, this is really fun. I'm released at these play dates that I wasn't able to take part in before, but I'm not really involved. I'm just like,
yeah,
lurking in the background.
Yeah, that's definitely me.
Yeah.
Can I just say that you're all doing such an amazing job? Like, you're all like managing such different transitions, and it's really inspiring to see. Like, so when I gave birth to Callum, the youngest, who's 4 months now, Wu flu was still called Wu flu. Like, people weren't calling it, you know, we didn't think it was that serious. It was still Wuhan pneumonia. And then, you know, a week or two after I came out of the hospital, it was like, now big deal. Everyone is wearing masks outside. They started shutting down our clubhouse. Parents stopped letting kids play together. So my son actually hasn't been playing with friends since February, really. And then cases started appearing, not in our building, but around our area in our complex. And that newborn motherhood instinct is protect. And so I became like, no one is allowed to touch anything, nobody breathe, every time you touch. And I experienced, with my first, I experienced a lot of postnatal anxiety and depression. And I was like, I'm set this time round. Like, when I have this new baby, I have my support system, I've got my network, I have all of these contingency plans, getting out, doing this, doing that. And all of that expectation was just completely like shattered with this global pandemic. So I just wanted to say, like, you guys are so inspiring and you're absolutely killing it. And the fact that as mothers, at the end of the day, we're still just like, I'm still not being good enough and I'm still not doing enough. And I want to, you know, like, we all feel that. And I actually found the first month of my new baby's life, because I had intended to do confinement, I found that newborn life so much easier than once my baby got a little bit more aware, because they just sleep and feed. And I found it easy to do activities with my older one. We could still play and the baby was just kind of attached. Or it became, you know, his emotional transition wasn't as bad as I thought it was. He was so resilient and way better at accepting the situation than I could have imagined. And there's been very little jealousy. I even asked him the other day, I was like, you know, it's okay to be jealous. Do you get jealous of the baby? And he was like, no, I get jealous when you speak to daddy. And I was like, oh. And, you know, I'm a boy mom. I have all boys. I have all boys in my life, Capricorns and Scorpios. And Capricorns, who are my sons, need a lot of routine and structure, which I have found difficult to provide for them. So that's sort of where I'm at today, is releasing expectations of what routine and structure looks like, releasing expectation of homeschooling. Like, I gave that up months ago. I'm with you, Babs. And I have to keep reminding myself not to get caught up in the culture that can sometimes be Hong Kong, which is very academic focused, and just remember that he is a kid. And he will look back on this time being like, oh, we got to watch TV every day for 6 months. And I grew up here when it was SARS, and I was in primary school when it was SARS. And I remember that time as like 2 months of TV. Anyways, I'll pass there.
Trish, are you there? I was just wondering, in terms of, obviously, is this the longest time that you spent with your stepdaughters? To be honest, I had no idea. So that was really cool when you sent through your photo. I didn't actually know that about you. But yeah, how are you finding, obviously, having little one, but also having now being kind of in a house with so many more people in your household?
Sorry, it's still cutting. Sorry, my internet connection's really, really bad. I'm struggling. I've never been a stepmom before. There's no manual for it. And my oldest stepdaughter, who when I first met her was 8 and lovely, has turned into this horrific teenager. You know, she doesn't want to open up. I rarely see a smile on her face. Everything is, you know, she hates life. Everything's stupid. It's a struggle. I've had for so long as well, and it's difficult because, you know, they're not part of your DNA, but then you still love them and you still want the best for them. And between sort of trying to get them to transition into life with us, because, you know, over here there's mommy, there's me, I mean there's daddy, there's me, but they don't have mommy. And we have possibly different rules around the house. We have different expectations, and then there's that difference of expectation between how I see parenting and how my partner Toby sees parenting. And he's very much you know, he's very hands-off, in not in the sense of love. Like he's very much like, oh, the kids, you know, he comes back with chocolate during the weekdays, and for me it's like, no treats during the weekdays. We leave it to the weekends, otherwise they're going to be sugar high. We're doing homeschool, but homeschool's on French time. So halfway, so when I get back from work, so I've been pulling actually out of everyone. I'm spending less time at home than ever before. So it feels like there's a race at the moment for that, and it's an expectation that I've obviously put on myself. But it's around trying to get this place ready on a shoestring budget. So therefore I'm doing everything, all the renos by myself with help from people here and there. But at the same time, trying to fulfill client obligations, just to get some cash flow in. And that means sort of coaching out in the parks, you know, going to people's homes. So more than ever, I generally start my day at 6 a.m. and by the time I get back, I've missed dinner time, bath time, and I'm just there just before bedtime and I'm exhausted. But then I have to sit down for homeschool because French homeschool runs on a virtual school, runs 3 p.m. to midnight. And with technological issues, with teenager issues, we've caught them on the phone while they're doing virtual classes. And it's hard because I call it out. They get angry at me. They're like, oh, you know, my nickname is SS at home. Because it's, you know, I've said to them, look, I don't want you guys dicking around. You know, there's playtime, but then there's also study time, and environment, and it's also different relationships. So my relationship with the girls have definitely changed. I was on the floor the other day, you know, in my own bedroom in a corner, just closing my eyes and sobbing because I haven't had a minute to myself since we got back to Hong Kong. And, you know, we had, it was the oldest one's birthday dinner. We had, I think, you know, a lot of people over, mostly Toby's friends and some of my friends, but I just couldn't handle the amount of people in my own house, in my space. And I just had a panic attack. and I haven't had a panic attack in years. I've had one other one, for that's another story. And this whole week I've just gone, okay, you know what? I need guilt-free time for myself, because my relationship with Toby is not great at the moment. We're arguing, and we only ever argue about the kids, you know, and then I think it's about spending, you know, time on my own, for my own, but without feeling horrifically guilty that I'm not doing something for the business, doing something for the kids, doing something for him, or anyone else. And I think it's my, I suppose, intrinsic inability to say no to anything. So I've just said no to everything this week, mostly everything, and tried to be a lot more organized around, okay, guys, it's, you know, it's 10:30, I need to go, I need to run, this can't go on for anymore. I set timers when I'm doing meetings or coffees, and I have literally, I've booked in time for myself, whether it's to switch off and go for a walk, and we've sat down as a couple to just, you know, to just discuss, like, what can we do for us two, because we are not seeing each other. And how can we, and when we do it, it's surrounded by children, so we're not really seeing each other. And how can we then do that, and whether it's a staycation somewhere, you know, or not. So that's me at the moment.
Thanks, Trish. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, it must be really, really challenging to have, you know, that new relationship, but also, like you said, sort of all changing through what your role is, but also questioning also, you know, oh, is their birth mum doing it this way, or is them they're complaining kind of that's not how she does it, and all of those kind of things, questioning yourself all the time. In terms of setting aside time for yourself or ourselves, how have you guys found that's worked for you? Like, have you sort of said, you know, to, let's say, your helper, for example, hey, would you mind taking, you know, in my sense, like, Kai out while I go and do X? Or is it, hey, I've gone to work and that's my time to train? Like for me, where I can still use a gym in like a closed off setting, you know, there's only 4 of us allowed at the same time. You kind of get your training done in the hour, and that's my time sort of away from Kai. I do my Zoom calls, my virtual classes, and then go back and, you know, at least you kind of felt you've had a bit of time for yourself. How have you guys all found kind of setting aside the time, and obviously all of us kind of, like we've sort of said already, sort of dealing with a bit of kind of guilt, where you're like, ooh, all of this fantastic time to spend more time with people, but actually all you want is maybe to pull back a little bit so you do have a little bit of time for yourselves. How have you guys found that?
Hard in this, you know, coronavirus world that we're living in is like, I mean, it's hard as a mum to find time for yourself, and Trish said the exact same thing. Like, I feel guilty if I'm not being productive with my time in some way. And I carve out time in my mornings to do some exercise. I do that every day as part of my day. But if anything, and like particularly when you're pregnant, and I'm being told by various sources, including my doctor, that I need to rest more, which is, and so in that sense, like, your training doesn't actually count as you time. I've been told this a lot of times before, like, that's part of your day, but that doesn't count. Like, you need something else that's just for you. But what do you do? And I think in Hong Kong, we've got a lot more freedom than a lot of places. I mean, we're not strictly locked down. But for me, if my me time used to be getting a coffee somewhere, well, now I work out of coffee shops because I'm trying to get some peace and quiet. So coffee shops aren't an escape anymore. They're my office, right? Where else would I go? This kind of, you can't really go anywhere to hide. So I personally end up having excessively long showers. I just stand in the shower for like and Chris is like, what are you doing in there? And I'm like, shaving my legs. I'm not, I'm just like swaying under the water because it's the only place to hide sometimes. So that's the biggest thing. And when we used to be able to go to our place of work or go here, you could compartmentalize. So work was work and gym was training, and then maybe a quiet coffee with you time, and then home was family time. And now there's no compartmentalizing. Everything's mixed up. And I think the hardest thing as any parent is finding time just for yourself. And it's an ongoing battle for me. I think I'm still failing at it, really. I don't really take time for myself, apart from the fact that I do get my training done as much as I can, 4 or 5 times a week. Because if I don't exercise, I'm just a horrible human, and I'm not as good as a parent, and I'm not as good as an employee. So that's almost like the way I do that is I schedule it in like a work meeting. It's in my work calendar. This is the time that I train. Our helper knows that, my husband knows that, so that's just me scheduled in. But I mean, I've got the benefit of being able to do that. Not every parent has that. I'm absolutely blessed that I have the support that I can go out and do that, and I'm very conscious that not everybody does.
I found for me that a meditation practice was the easiest thing. So I started really taking it more seriously when I was pregnant with Callum the second time around, more so because I wanted to change my birth experience than I had the first time. And I'd be so interested to hear Dee's take on this as a yoga instructor, and then finding out when you get to the hospital that your partner isn't allowed in. But for me, finding time for myself has always been in my own mind in meditation, just with no one touching me. Like, I think the thing I found this time round was that I just felt so touched out so quickly with the breastfeeding, and then a toddler always wanting to be on you whilst you're breastfeeding, and then, partner comes in later and wants to hold hands or cuddle, and I was just like, nobody touch me, just stop touching me. And the thing is, I love babies, like I love little babies, and I just think they need to be held and cuddled all the time because, 4th trimester, they've just come out. And so I was trying to honor that, but then also honor my older one's feelings, and then also honor my partner's feelings. And he's the most understanding, to be honest, because he was around the first time I had a baby. So, I mean, for me, meditation, even if it's just the 5-minute breathing and just trying to empty my mind, or the 5-minute crying. We did a women's circle that Dee invited me to the other night, and I think I just cried hysterically for 4 hours, and it was so healing and so fantastic. And I didn't realize how much I had been holding in until I did that. And I wasn't really allowing myself to cry because I just wanted everything to be okay and like be okay for my kids. But Dee, could you share a little about your experience with giving birth this time?
Sure. So my babies like to cook for long times. So Maya was late, very late. I went into labor very slowly the first time, and then this time I didn't even. I had to go in to get induced at 41 weeks. So I birthed at Queen Mary. So I literally, was like the Saturday night before, we had like a lovely dinner with Maya. And she had like a total meltdown at Ula, which resulted in Kieran like walking away, carrying her home. And I was like, I'm just going to finish this like little tiny bit of wine before I walk myself home and have this baby tomorrow. So that was my like planned, ideal, lovely last meal before we have another baby. And so yeah, Sunday morning I walked in at like 9 a.m. and I was like, hey, like, I'm here to get induced, like, what's up? I've got all my stuff, this bag is for the delivery room, this bag is for after, like, ready to go because it's the second time, right? And literally as we said good morning, they were like, no partners allowed, no visitors. And I was like, well, yeah, okay, no problem. Like, no visitors, no biggie. Like, he's going to be in the delivery room. And they were like, no, like, absolutely none. And we both just kind of sat there like, seriously?
Sorry, Dee. Can you just go through that? So I thought they had announced that. So they didn't do that. They basically just arrived and they were like, oh, by the way, Kieran can't come inside.
Yes. So they were like, he can go down and register you and then come back and help you get settled down for like 10 minutes. And then he has to leave because we can't have any visitors. And this was the first day. So this was the 26th of January. Yeah. And we went to my bed, and then I just sat there and I started crying, obviously. And then he was like, listen, you know, and he's so great this way, right? Like, he was like, you got this. He's like, I'm going to be right outside the door. He's like, you know, as you're laboring, he's like, you can be outside the door. I'm going to be right there. He was like, and then it's just a small chunk of time, right? And we'll oh, hello.
Hi.
We have a little visitor. I want to call. Do you want to just come say hi? And then can you please close the door?
Well,
Hold on 1 second. Come here. It's Alia's mom. And who else do you know? Tyson's mom.
Hey, Maya.
Maya.
Hi,
Okay. Can you close the door?
I already did.
I know, but can you go to the other side of the door and close the door?
Savage.
So, nope, she's still here. Anyway, we're just going to keep talking. I feel like the other one's going to come in too for a feed. So anyway, yeah, we walked in, I cried, and yeah, that was it. You know, in my mind, I was like, listen,
Are you okay, Mama?
I'm okay. Thanks for checking in.
Yeah, that's good for me.
I prepared for this, right? Like, I'd been doing my meditations. So for this pregnancy, I was really clear that a meditative playlist was going to be my go-to. Because the last time I didn't bring a speaker in, so they were like, we can't play your music, and I played it off the phone, and it was just crap, so I just had no music. And this time I was like, I needed that, because that was my anchor, and knowing that Kieran wasn't going to be in the delivery room, I was like, this is the next best thing. And he had been listening to it with me, and like I've been singing it like every day, so you know, in a spiritual sense, he was there, right? And so yeah, the labor itself this time was really quick and really intense because they used pessary tablets. And then there was no time for an epidural. I kept being like, give me an epidural. And they were like, sure, we're going to take your blood test, but it's going to take some time to get the blood work back. And I was still like, I don't care. I want the epidural. Meanwhile, I'm like, in my head, I was like, Dee, you're like less than a minute apart in contractions. Like, you can't even sit still for an epidural. So I don't even know why I was asking. And once my water broke, like within the hour, like she was born. And as upset as I was, it really was just for a short amount of time, because Kieran really was just on the other side of that door the whole time. And the staff were amazing. I think maybe because they didn't have to deal with visitors, and it was Chinese New Year, and the nurses were like, "Go hey fa choi, lai si dao loi," right? Like everybody was in a good mood. Like I'd hear nurses be like doctors saying, "Oh, I didn't have enough. I'll come back tomorrow," and the nurses be like, "Yeah, you better come back tomorrow." Like, so I think that
you're at Queen
probably,
Mary, right?
I was at Queen Mary, yeah. That probably added to them. And then I was fortunate enough to have a doctor deliver me this time and not a midwife. And I don't know, man. It was like, I'm gonna say it. It was like an orgasmic birth. I mean, in the moments where she was coaching me to breathe, bear down, push, the music, like it was just like awesome in those moments. And obviously in the in-between, when the contractions ended, I was like, oh shit, oh god, keep going, can we keep going? And she'd be like, blow out the candles. I'm like, I don't want to blow out the candles, I want the cake. But anyway, it was awesome in the moments that she told me to push, and it was ideal, and it was quick, and you know, it's just that quiet after birth. Like I'll never forget that for both my births. Like it's the best, like one of the best feelings ever. It's kind of like when you set a new PR, and then you just like, yes. For PD, sorry.
Yeah. I see. That's so great.
Yeah.
In terms of for you, have you found pregnancy the second time round, but also during coronavirus, things have been a bit different for you, like checkup wise? Are you doing Queen Mary again, like first one?
So,
yeah. So
oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I have to say, like, I'm glad it's like I'm a worrier about everything, and so I worry my way through my last pregnancy. You know, you have a scan, the baby's healthy, and so you lose all your worries for like 2 days, and then I find something else to worry about. It's just kind of how I operate. And so with coronavirus around as well, I was just like, oh no. But if anything, I mean, I think we're very lucky in Hong Kong in terms of certainly not being as restricted as other places. So I've been seeing a private doctor for my prenatal checkups, and it's been much the same, just masks and lots of hand washing and things. In terms of the birth, so I had Fletcher at the Queen Mary as well. And my carefully planned, I did all the hypnobirthing, I did the meditation. I had grand plans of this beautiful birth, which just went completely tits up. It was, you know, when I realized I was in labor, they were already a minute apart. It went so fast, and I was like, I'm meant to be having an aromatherapy shower, and just like that did not happen for me. And I ended up, due to Fletcher going into fetal distress, I had to have a very quick emergency C-section, and so Chris was just shut out. He was just literally like pushed out into the hallway, and they zoomed me off, and I had this really quick C-section. Which was what needed to happen. So I kind of have made peace with that, even though I didn't get my unmedicated natural birth that I'd been hoping for. But now I'm going through this process. So at the moment, Queen Mary is still not allowing partners in. It may get lifted by the time I'm due to give birth, but for me to try for natural birth again, it will be VBAC, so vaginal birth after cesarean, which comes with its own challenges. So for me to go through that with the possibility of Chris not being there with me is just like it's a really huge thing. And also the thought of Chris being shut out of the process for a second time is just a bit rough. So we've kind of got a backup plan to go to a private hospital and look at an elective C-section as an option. I still haven't quite made peace with that. Like I just want to have another go at natural birth, but it may well be that given we are existing in the global pandemic and with all the uncertainties that come with that, I think there is something to be said for having some certainty around this baby being born in a safe environment. The private hospital where I'd go to, you know, wouldn't have corona cases anywhere near it. So I'm still kind of processing that. And it's funny, the second pregnancy, you just got so much else that you're thinking about with work and a toddler that I worry sometimes I'm not as engaged with this one. So I'm just busy doing other things. I'm not monitoring the app to see what size fruit she is, and I'm not doing all that stuff. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel bad that I'm not engaging with this baby. But I think by the time the birth rolls round, it'll all fall into place. Because I think the biggest thing I learned with Fletcher's birth was like expectations have to set aside. You should plan for birth as well as you can and prepare yourself, but you also have to accept that you have essentially no control over the situation. And there'll be a baby at the end of it one way or the other, and you just have to be okay with how that happens. And so that's how I am with this pregnancy. I'm like, I just have to be okay with however she arrives, that's going to be okay. And at the end of the day, I'll have my daughter, and it'll be good. So just trying to be a bit zen about it, which is not in my nature, but I'm just trying to be zen about it. So,
all birth is
Emily,
valid.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zaya.
Is there if you wanted to have if you wanted to try, like, you can try to have a natural birth, right?
And yeah, they've said that.
And if you were to do like the packages at a private hospital, like, could you still have that option to go? Like, I know a lot of the hospitals are doing it now where they'll do like the capped pregnancy packages. Like, could you do that and still try if that's something that you wanted?
It's still an option. That's still an option. And in Hong Kong, we are lucky that the private hospitals are offering packages for women who would otherwise deliver it public. I'm a lawyer and I do read the fine print, and there are ways that the cost can still creep up. But I hate that birth then becomes like a financial planning process. Like, that kills me. I'm just like, I hate that this becomes like a business transaction. Like, how much is my safe child going to cost me? I hate that. But But this, I mean, this is the wonderful thing about Hong Kong. We have options, and a lot of women around the world don't. You know, a lot of women are being told prepare for home births, or you can come to the hospital, but no birth partner, which I just think is. There's been a lot of movements. I've seen it on social media around putting a stop to this whole you can't have a support person with you in there, because to me it seems insane that your husband could sit outside the door but not be in the room. I mean, what's the difference, like, in terms of virus spread? That's insane. And for a woman and for the father, like, that support is so crucial, because they become your advocate. And I admire you so much, Dee, that you did that on your own. Like, you're an absolute champ. Because I was pathetic. Like, I needed Chris 100%, because I was hopeless. So,
well, you did it because you did it. So
thank you. But you know, you're a hero. You're an absolute hero. And all the mums who are doing it, regardless of how the birth is happening, you're all heroes for this stuff.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I think a big challenge at the moment in terms of just that unknown.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, by August when you're due, we'll be a little bit more back to normal. Exactly, we will indeed.
She'll come one way or the other.
She'll come one way, yeah. Just at home, in the lift lobby or something.
Oh God, that's nearly what happened last time. So God, no.
So guys, in terms of just coming on to the next kind of topic that I wanted to discuss was, I know for all of us, we are in the fitness realm, you know, whether that's training for ourselves, training other people, or a bit of both. I know generally conversation around training during pregnancy and postpartum, you know, there's a lot of kind of influencers out there on Instagram, kind of, I think Trisha, you put up a great post the other day about, you know, postpartum women aren't weight loss clients. They're completely different. It's a completely separate thing. And we shouldn't be targeting, you know, people who are vulnerable and emotional in these ways of just being like, hey, do this HIIT class every single day, don't eat anything, and lose weight and get back to your baby body, pre-baby body.
Yeah.
So in terms of kind of all of us,
it makes me angry.
Yeah. Yeah. So
sorry, Babs, go.
No, all good.
I'm lagging.
In terms of all of us being in this kind of space, obviously, being pregnant, it would be really interesting to see how your training has maybe changed slightly from pregnancy 1 and 2. And also now we do have the gyms closed. I mean, hopefully Friday they're looking to reopen, but how that might have changed for you. And then obviously Ziggy, Trisha, how it looked different, maybe how you've been training people who are going through this. And I suppose Dee as well, I know you are really big into fitness as well, and how juggling having a newborn, Maya running around, how has training looked for you in terms of just, are you able to do anything? Are you literally locking yourself in your bedroom by your closet trying to do something? I know you love practicing yoga and that kind of thing. So I'd love to get an overview how training and fitness has looked for all of you, whether that's coaching or taking part in. So I know, Em, you said you've been on the balcony in the car park with your dumbbell.
I've been everywhere, yeah. Yeah, I would say overall, it's actually been really good for me in pregnancy, having to be at home and being out of the gym environment. And I think I come from that being, so I'm not a trainer. I'm just a fitness enthusiast.
You're an athlete.
I'm an athlete. So, I mean, my background is in competitive CrossFit, which I just fell into. And so for me, I mean, a big part of pregnancy is switching off that athlete brain, that competitor's brain, and, you know, reprioritizing training the way, you know, that's going to benefit me most in pregnancy. I think there's been a big shift in thinking. Like, I think if you look back 5 or 6 years ago, particularly in the CrossFit world, it was all about like fit mom, like pregnant mom, look at me, 8 months pregnant doing my muscle ups, and that was the cool thing. And I think what we've seen is really good. There's been a shift towards much better understanding in terms of, you know, it's not a can I do this, but should I do this, or do I need to?
Yeah.
And so for me, being out of the gym is that there's lots of things that I love to do in the gym. Like, I love gymnastic style movements. So I love pull-ups and muscle ups and stuff. And when you're pregnant, like, if someone like, could I go do a muscle up tomorrow? Maybe. Is that a good idea for me to do it? Absolutely not. And so you know, it's just not something I need to do during pregnancy. But so for me, it's literally like having a box of chocolates sitting there that I can't eat when everybody else is doing these fun CrossFit things. So if anything, like, it's really good for me to be out of the environment, because it removes the temptation. So instead, my training has been dumbbell based, lots of, you know, single leg, single arm work. And really I'm doing maybe 40 minutes kind of dumbbell based strength training, a little bit of kind of metcon type work, and then just my day-to-day neat and walking, like my step count is way up. And that is really good for me as a pregnant woman, to just get that strength training in and just generally have my activity level up. So if anything, this environment has been really good for me. That being said, now that the gyms are potentially opening, cannot wait to get my hands back on a barbell. But I'm feeling really good. I love training. It's my outlet. And I've been really lucky. I've been supported by my coach and from Coastal, and all of the Coastal team, in terms of the gymless programming that's come out has been really well suited for people to adapt just wherever you're at. So yeah, I've been feeling really good and loving it. And just trying to be really smart about my training choices.
Yeah, and Emily, I think that's that what you brought up in terms of step count. That's been one of the focuses of what I've been doing with my clients. The thing is, when you're stuck at home, if you, I think one of my clients actually tracked it. So she would typically cover something like 8,000 to 10,000 steps in a normal day pre-virus, and she was averaging 1,500 steps working from home, and that's a huge difference. So I was encouraged to, you know, go out, go for a hike, hit the trails, go for a walk. Dumbbell based training. So what we've been doing is we've been loaning out equipment, or, you know, making do with bands. We're doing things like, I've got a little WhatsApp group with my own clients, doing sort of home workouts. So we'll try and post one every couple of days. Yeah, and I've been, like I said, I've been coaching everyone out at the park. So basically loading up my own equipment on a little cart and a bag, farmer carrying it down to Tema Park or Sun Yat-sen, and doing that. A little bit of boxing. So I've gone back to my roots and encourage people, hey, you know, if you don't like running, you don't like walking, get a boxing session in. So I've been doing holding pads and teaching people how to box again. So a lot of that. I think postpartum wise, you know, one of my biggest gripes with social media is, as I said, you know, that there's pressure on women to do more during pregnancy and to do even more after pregnancy. There's a lot of, oh, look at my six pack, post, you know, I'm 3 months postpartum and I've got a six pack. I think it's completely unrealistic for the majority of my clients and majority of women out there. And I also, and, you know, Ziggy and I are part of the Hong Kong breastfeeding forums, and we often see posts asking, oh, I'm doing high intensity interval training, but I'm breastfeeding. I'm on some form of diet that is either lower in calories or cutting out certain food groups, and my breast milk supply has decreased. And we see that, Ziggy, probably once a week. And the video that I posted was just really around addressing that, because I see it so often and I get asked that so often, is that, you know, directly postpartum while you're breastfeeding, your body is not a priority, your baby is. And in fact, no matter how postpartum you are, whether that's, you know, whether your children are 4 months old or 20 years old, if you've not actually done if you've not actually nourished and healed up or put anything back into your body so that it has the resources, the way I describe fat loss is that it's a luxury, right? It's like a really expensive handbag. If you don't have enough savings in your bank account, you don't have enough put away for retirement fund, you can't buy an expensive handbag. That's fat loss. So pregnancy, childbirth, life, those are all big withdrawals, right? The biggest withdrawal you do as a female is having a child. And if you do have multiple children, you've had multiple children, you've had several big withdrawals in your life. So a question that I often put to my postnatal clients is that, what have you done to put back into your bank account? So that's my 2 cents there. Hi, Caleb, you're so cute.
So cute. I think definitely what Em's been saying, Trish, as well. Like, I feel like the big positive, I suppose, coming out of this, hopefully, is not, I haven't seen too much of it, of kind of people hammering home like high intensity interval training in your bedroom or balcony for people who are pregnant, which is awesome to see. Like, I mean, I haven't been scrolling heaps on Instagram, but often with algorithms and stuff, loads of that kind of stuff has popped up. And actually, I'm really happy to say I haven't really seen much of that really at all this time round, compared to maybe when I was pregnant, like you were saying, and it was all kind of, you know, fit mums and doing this and that, and you should all be doing this, and you know, and then once you finished, yes, exactly that, Trish, like, look at my, you know, post baby body photos and all of this kind of thing. And it really does apply a lot of pressure to people's expectations, and they kind of take it on themselves and kind of feel like a real disappointment when they haven't got that. You know, I definitely felt, being in the training space, like the fitness space, like a coach, not that much pressure, but the expectation to bounce back very quickly, because, you know, I was meant to be the role model for everybody else in the gym who was pregnant, now no longer pregnant, and suddenly I should be back to my best, basically. So I definitely found, and even if no one had even said that to me, like no one said, oh, you know, why are you not like this? You kind of take it upon yourself to kind of take on that role, I suppose, as a role model. In terms of your Zoom classes that you guys have been doing, have you been coaching a lot of kind of virtually, Ziggy? Like, have you been doing a lot of virtually? I know before you were doing a lot of classes at Warrior, at Doji, but now obviously you're on maternity leave. Have you been doing any virtual classes, and have you found coaching online, like not having kind of hands-on kind of helping?
Well, when I was pregnant, I like to say that I just yelled from a distance. So Zoom has, it's just been a continuation of that. Well,
yeah, fair enough.
Zoom classes more because, and they were free, you know, and I would just say,
yeah,
please donate to my coffee fund, because I don't necessarily, I don't know how to put like a quantity for that, because everyone's home experience is so different. And it's kind of just a continuation of Mums and Bubs, which actually Trish was the one who let me do in the non-busy gym time. She's my boss, you know.
Yeah.
And Mums and Bubs was like the postpartum connection that I needed, that everyone kept telling me, you should put on fitness classes. And I was like, oh no, I don't. And it was the pressure of, my body isn't what it was, and it cannot do what it, you know, what it could do. So how can I then teach all of these moms? And it was that role model that I realized that I needed to be, to show people, well, actually, this is what our bodies can do, and this is how we're going to rehab together. We're all going to do it at the same time, and like connecting with each other. And it's the great thing about when the way Hong Kong works is you get cohorts of moms who are coming in just before they go back to work. So they all get to connect, and then I get to see their babies. So every sort of 12 weeks, I get a new cohort of moms. And then I ended up having moms on their second pregnancy and their second postpartum. And so people who stuck with me on the Zoom classes were actually moms who had been coming, you know, from their first babies, and they just wanted to get, it was literally 30 minutes. It was a 10-minute warm up, like a 10-minute, you know, scaled EMOM or whatever, and then a 10-minute cool down. So it wasn't anything that super intense, or it could be as intense or as non-intense as you wanted it to be. And, you know, it was nice having everyone's videos on, seeing everyone again and seeing their babies. Like, if any of my Zoom classes, it's just like toddlers running around, and they're all on mute, and it's me just, you know, singing songs badly. So
for me personally, training people, it has been just an online continuation of what Mums and Bubs was. Mums and babies on screen, running around, just trying to make it happen and just trying to make it work. And for second part this time, actually, I was working with an abdominal separation that just wanted to open back up immediately the second it found out it was, pregnant. So I stopped loading very early on. I think I was like 20 weeks when I stopped loading. And even before that, I wasn't loading heavily because I was vomiting all the time. And my priority was rest and nutrition and how not to vomit, So when I started training, I just did the basics of what felt good for me on top of my work schedule. Pass.
Oh, I've done. Oh, thanks, Dee. So guys, in terms of the last thing I wanted to cover, I know they're all really pushed for time, and we have gone over as we all thought we might do. Kids are up and that kind of thing. I just wanted to touch the last kind of topic, I suppose, kind of going forward and what you guys see the future for you guys, for your industries, for how you might find juggling, having 2 babies, having 1 baby, having 3 babies or 4 babies. How this might kind of evolve, hopefully once we go back to a bit more normal. I guess what will be the new normal, for you guys? What kind of positive will you take coming out of this, and what you might implement going forward? What things you're dying to kind of get back to a more normal kind of schedule? I'd love to hear kind of what you guys are thinking in terms of what you've loved about the situation and what you really haven't enjoyed.
So I feel like because I birthed during this time, I was going to say this era of COVID.
Kind of it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's kind of like secondary, because I think primarily, hang on, I'm going to meet you, Babs. Primarily right now, it's been, rediscovering like who I am postpartum again. So I didn't have a separation the first time. This time I have had a separation. My training is completely out the window. I've done a couple of workouts at home, and just, I can't. I really can't. The fact that I'm in pain after, I'm like, nope, that is a clear no for me. And I didn't share this with you guys earlier, but I actually left and took my kids to Bali. And my plan was to stay there for the entire month of March. And when I got to Bali, the next day they started shutting down the schools and the play areas. And I was like, we're going back to Hong Kong. And we landed back the day that they started doing the wristbands. So we came back, and then we were in quarantine for 2 weeks. And that was the time that I really used to feel again into my body, right? Like, how was I feeling in my body this time around? And how was I going to train it? So I've just started a new, I just signed up to an online system. I think a lot of it is more Pilates based, but it's slower. It's more mindful. It's not because if I don't have a program to follow, or if I don't create a program to follow, I'm the person that, like Emily's saying, right? You're just going to go for it. So right now, I think it's been good that the gyms are closed and I don't go in there and hurt myself. And, Trish, thank you so much for that video. I was like, yes, I needed to hear that. And yeah, my own practice, it's at night. Honestly, when I move, it's when, she's in bed by 9 now, since there's no school. And the other one, she goes down for the night about 10:30. And then I take about half an hour to 45 minutes to just do my own thing. Some nights it's literally just putting music on and dancing, and Kira knows, either dance with me or get out of my space, because we don't have a lot of it. So that's what it looks like right now. And yeah, I guess I am looking forward to, the gyms and studios being open again, but I think it'll still be some time before I'm setting foot in there. Like, I just want to be clear on where my boundaries are again in my body before I do go back in.
I'll come at this from my actual real job rather than my pretend job that I have as an athlete. Coming at it from like a corporate perspective, I think one of the good things that we'll see come out of this is basically employers globally seeing the work from home thing is actually a really viable measure. I know as an organisation where I work, we've been really pleasantly surprised at how well work from home for because globally all our employees are working from home apart from business critical functions. And to be honest, I know the most senior management thought that it was going to be a bit of a shit show. It's actually worked very, very well for us and have kept clients happy and kept employees happy. So as much as on this call we've talked about the challenges of working from home, particularly as a parent, can be an absolute lifesaver. If you're breastfeeding, on the days that your child is sick, all those sorts of things, to have that flexibility to do your job from home is huge. So I'm really excited to see that employers globally can see that work from home can work really, really well. And it's going to be our future for quite a while. I mean, in Hong Kong, we'll be able to start drifting back to offices. It'll look different. There'll be masks, there'll be social distancing. But for my colleagues in the US and New York, they're not going back to work for a very long time. But I think as much as it is extremely challenging to work from home with children, it's also a huge opportunity to have more time with your kids. And, you know, if it may allow a mum to breastfeed for that much longer, things like that. So I think that's a positive that's going to come out of this whole situation, is that viability of the work from home arrangement for everybody, but particularly for working parents.
I'm going to call out one thing here, and maybe it'll get, spread virally in the government, but I think it's so ironic that in Hong Kong that they are telling mothers to exclusively breastfeed for 3 months, but you only get 10 weeks legally for maternity. And if you're late, like me, you lose 4 weeks, right? Because you have to take your leave from 38 weeks. And if you're like me, you don't have your baby till 41 weeks. That's like going back to work after 2 months. And I think that's just crazy. Yeah. And so I hope that the government will take this into consideration and learn from this time that you can, you need more time for mothers. And I get it, like your business, you need to pay your people, but it can be done. I mean, it can be done, and it needs to be done, I think.
And completely agree with that, Dee. It's and also to actually have, policies or help in place to show companies, that breastfeeding, the benefits to breastfeeding, and to actually have proper rooms with privacy. I remember, trying to breastfeed, and I was told, maybe you should just pump in the toilet. No, sorry. Why don't you cook your food in the bathroom? That's disgusting. So it's it would be fantastic if the Hong Kong government would support that, because what you see in the hospitals is like, breastfeed 3 months at least, but try and breastfeed the full year. But there's no support around. After it just felt like I wasn't even ready to go back to work because I hadn't established a strong enough supply, and I was still struggling with the whole idea of breastfeeding. So I'd love to see that change. I've got to run, girls. So I'm very quickly going to just end with my little bit, and I'll just quickly sign out. I think the positives that have come out of this is that I've learned a lot. As a mother, I've gotten a bit of preview in terms of how to live with teenagers, and I think it's taught me a lot more patience, and it's really, I think, we've had a few explosions in our relationship, but I think it's really helped us to see sort of, okay, that's where I'm coming from, that's where he's coming from, we need to find a midway around that. So hopefully that's the positive. I think with the industry, I do see that people will come back to the gyms. I think everyone's dying to get their hands on a barbell and and just have that person-to-person interaction again. I don't know if a lot will really change, because at the end of the day, we are community-based people, and we're very, you know, humans are very social creatures. And even with all this social distancing, we coming out of this, I think we all need, you know, to be in the same room as other people, to sweat together, to cry together, to be together. And hopefully, you know, we'll see this here earlier in Hong Kong and later on in the year for other countries. But speaking to friends and family that's overseas, I know the dying to see people. You know, we've got friends in LA that haven't seen anyone since I think it was March 15th. Not a single soul aside from a grocery checkout person. So it's I don't know if the industry will change too much. There might be a lot more online programming, online training available, but I do feel that you know, the gyms will be full again. So that's sort of where I think things will be back to normal, hopefully, just with masks until they find a vaccine. Did I get cut off?
Thank you, Trish.
Thanks, Trish. Sorry, kept you. I think for me, I definitely agree. Like,
Bye, guys.
Bye, Trish. See you soon. Yeah, like definitely community-based is what we're all about at Coastal. And I definitely know that a lot of people are desperate to get back in the gym and just have that connection again. You know, it's all very well doing stuff online with people, seeing other people's results, but just being in the same room and connecting and a bit of competition and just banter at the end is definitely what's going to come back. I think for me, for the future of this industry, I hope that people who have maybe started exercising a little bit more, taking their health a bit more seriously and trying to just, you know, move around a little bit more, that they're going to keep on doing that, and they're going to see the benefits in what being active, having a bit of a home gym at home during this time and seeing the benefits of it. I hope that they take that forward. You know, even if that's not joining a gym when, you know, things open again, for me, it's, you know, just overall people's health and prioritizing that, especially in Hong Kong where, you know, sometimes that, you know, takes a massive backseat. It's kind of the last thing in anyone's mind because they're just working constantly, juggling a million and one things, and their health and fitness is the last thing that they're really worried about. I really hope that now there's people doing that. You know, you see in Decathlon, all the dumbbells, all the kettlebells, they're gone. Like they're literally out of stock, which is fantastic to see. You know, I prioritize a bit of time to go running on one day with some friends, and the number of people out on the trails, it's like incredible, like even during the week. So I really hope, for me, that continues on in whatever shape or form exercise and activity looks like. Ziggy, how are you doing? Do you need to go and feed?
No, I fed. I just tilted my screen up.
Oh, very stealth. I had no idea.
Yeah, but just as we're closing, you know, the whole experience has taught me that literally the only relationship that I have is with myself, and that like my mental health has an impact on my entire household. Because when I am mentally, physically, spiritually well, but most importantly, spiritually well, when I'm living in that space of like patience and gratitude, but also like that space of authenticity. Like if something is not okay, that I say it's not okay, but in a healthy way. And as shared, I've had many an explosion, and that is a part of postpartum as well, but also a part of this whole situation that we're in. So the biggest takeaway for me is that I have to really walk the talk and practice all of the like good mental health practices. So as a family, we started doing like affirmations on our fridge, like just with whiteboard markers, so that everyone in the family is seeing what that person needs and wants for themselves and for, you know, who they are. And we include our, you know, we included George into it, and he doesn't really get it. You know, he I'm like, okay, so what's your affirmation for today? I am, and he will say his favorite superhero or cartoon character. And I'm like, okay, and what are they like? So whether that's strong, fast, you know, helpful, whatever it is, that's, you know, I'm trying to that's like the extent of my parenting. And it happens first thing in the morning, and maybe it doesn't happen the rest of the day, but we're all just trying our best.
Zig, I just asked Maya, I was like, do you want to share your affirmations? And she was like, no, and that's okay. But we do it at bedtime. And like, yeah, do you like doing your affirmations? Do you like doing them? What's your favorite one? I am. Wait, what? I can't hear you. Can you say it louder? I am love. You are. But yeah, I'm a superhero is a good one too.
Nice, guys. So I mean, I think we'll wrap it up there. I think we've covered some really, really awesome stuff. I've taken some notes, so hopefully I'll get them all sorted. I'll listen to the recording again and try and get a bit more timestamps sorted. But I just want to say thank you so much for putting some time into your really busy schedules to allow us to get together and do this. It's been awesome catching up with everyone, hearing everyone's stories, and kind of finding out a lot more about each other, really. You know, I know that we kind of all know each other, but not really. Obviously, some of us better than others in some ways, but it's awesome. So hopefully, in the near future, we'll be able to do this in person or Zoom again. But yeah, Dee, thank you for hosting and being the only one on a paid call. Otherwise, we definitely wouldn't have been able to fit very much in. I would have cut it out after like 40 minutes.
No problem. Here, I'm going to unmute everybody and I'll stop recording.